Why is it harder to get leaner and stay leaner when we're older? Below 20% body fat for women over 40. The look that you're gonna get is probably visible abs, but often it's gonna come at the expense of your health. In order for you to achieve this, you can expect to have pretty strict daily macro tracking. You can be lean in your 40s, and this isn't to discourage you. We need something tailored for you in this season of life so that you can achieve your goals and you can maintain it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause Podcast, where we help you understand this new body of yours. Maybe you've gone through some hormonal changes and are experiencing some symptoms. Maybe you're post-menopause, but we know now that your body is inherently different as this starts to happen, which is why those old fat loss strategies just are not cutting it anymore. So it is time to learn how to work with this new body instead of against it, so you can open up those fat burning pathways, get your energy back, and be confident again. So today we are talking about something that's been coming up a lot in conversation, which is body fat percentage. A lot of women come into our program wanting a specific number. And I want to go over what's a realistic body fat percentage for women over 40, what it actually takes to get that lean, but then also maintain it. Because what's the point in aiming for something if you're not willing to do the things to maintain it, right? So we need to be able to understand what are our non-negotiables and what's realistic based off of that. Like, I don't care what your non-negotiables are, right? But then you have to be okay with the outcomes that you can or can't achieve based on those things. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about hormones influencing this, why it's harder to get leaner and maintain that leanness as we get older, and then go over the different categories and what to anticipate. So you know what's realistic for you based on what you are willing or not willing to do, right? So before we dive into this, I want to remind you that we have applications open right now for our 8-week Fat Loss Accelerator coaching program. You are working with a coach. They will customize your nutrition for you. With this program, we have limited spots, so hopefully there's still some available. The information will be in the show notes for you if you do want to check that out. So let's dive into, first of all, what does body fat percentage even mean? Body fat percentage is just not this vanity number where it's like, oh, this equals this look, right? Like, it's the ratio that you have of fat to lean tissue, right? This includes muscle, bone, water, organs. That's all lean tissue. And then we have fat mass. And so your body fat percentage will be lower with more fat mass, right? Like if you have 100 pounds of whatever, your body, right? And let's say we're at a certain percentage of body fat, just by increasing more muscle mass, that body fat percentage goes down because the ratio of lean muscle and bone and all that stuff compared to fat is going to be greater. So our body fat percentage goes down. So this is why you can be leaner at a higher weight, right? When I was my leanest, when I looked sculpted, when my arms had like the nice definition in the shoulders, I had the nice lines on my legs, you could see some visible abs. I was 10 pounds heavier than I was at my lightest, right? Actually more than that, because I was around 154, 155, and I'm sitting at like 136 right now. And so it's almost 20 pounds heavier. And that was when I was my leanest. And like, I looked fit, I looked toned. That was the best I've ever looked. And I was 20 pounds heavier, but my body fat percentage was a lot less because I had so much muscle mass. So a lot of people, don't realize that, but also understanding what different percentages are, which we're going to dive into here. And it's normal to see our body fat percentage increase with age because of things that happen as we grow older, like inactivity, but also hormones. And when we're looking at the hormones, it doesn't mean you can't get lean. It doesn't mean you can't have a lower body fat percentage. It means it's just more challenging to get there. It requires different strategies as you did when you were 20. And it also requires a different level to maintain those results as well. So that's what we're going to dive into today. So let's tackle hormones. Why is it harder to get leaner and stay leaner when we're older, right? And so hormones will play a factor here because estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, when they're shifting, we see that they are going to influence how good our bodies are at burning calories, how well our body is at taking food and turning it into fuel versus taking food and turning it into fat. And there's a lot of things that are going to influence your hormones, right? Like stress and under eating and over exercising and not enough sleep and things like that. However, we are going to see a natural decline due to the aging process, right? And so when we look at each one specifically, let's look at estrogen first, because she always gets the most press in the news, the most, the most fame. And so when estrogen declines, we have less muscle mass protection because estrogen sends a muscle building signal to our body. When it starts to decrease, obviously it's harder to maintain and build muscle because that signal goes down. So that's why training has to change when you're older. You have to do strength training because you're not going to maintain, let alone build muscle mass without an actual structured workout program. I talked about this just a few episodes ago if you want to go and check it out on how to eat and work out to build muscle over 40. So we also know that as estrogen starts to decline, we're typically going to see a little bit more fat storage, especially around our belly, which sucks, right? It has to do with how we're storing it based on hormones. Estrogen used to help direct fat to our hips and thighs. And now without it, fat starts going towards our abdomen, which is not what we want, right? Let's be honest. That's the classic menopause belly everybody talks about. Then we have progesterone. And so progesterone is very naturally calming. It is supportive of sleep. It is the thing that just, when you have it, everyone likes you because you're not reactive. Stress kind of rolls off your back. Your kids, your spouse are all like, we love mom when she has progesterone, right? And when we don't, sleep's not so great. We get a little bit anxious. We might be a little bit more reactive. And also what happens is when progesterone and estrogen are declining together, that means cortisol can rise more easily. And when cortisol rises, it increases our muscle breakdown signal and can actually decrease or block our fat burning signal, which makes it a lot harder, obviously, because you can do all the right things. But if your cortisol is really high and we're stuck in this storage state, your body is constantly being told we have enough, let's store, even though you're doing all the right things. This is why we have to adjust the way that we do things to, work with these new bodies so that we can actually achieve our goals and then also maintain them. And then we also have testosterone, which actually starts decreasing as young as your 20s. Without it, it's so much harder to build and maintain muscle mass. It's harder to maintain strength. You lose your motivation. That makes it harder to push in the gym as well, right? And so what we see is we have this hormonal situation, let's call it, where estrogen is low, progesterone is low, testosterone is low, cortisol is high. And then we have a much bigger muscle breakdown signal and a much lower muscle building signal. And so if we're not being intentional about it, we will lose muscle mass, we will gain fat. This is why the way that we work out and the way that we approach nutrition has to adjust, and we have to be more intentional. We can't get away with things like we used to because we don't have the hormones kind of tipping the scales in our favor. Now it's the opposite way. And so the things that once made it very easy to stay lean are now working against you, can actually accelerate the muscle loss process, which we don't want, right? We know stress and sleep and recovery matter so much more than ever before. This is why pushing really hard sometimes is not the answer, right? We see this even for myself. If I push too hard, my calories are too low, I start gaining weight. I get super inflamed. I hold on to water. It is not good. So, at 20, you could pull an all-nighter. You could eat the pizza, hit the gym maybe once a week or, be fine. And then you just bounce back. At 40, you're juggling kids, your work, your career, your aging parents, relationships. Your stress is chronic. It's not just this occasional thing that comes up. It's this low-grade stress we're experiencing all the time. And this high stress not only promotes that belly fat accumulation that we talked about, but it makes it harder to recover from workouts. It's going to tank your energy. It's going to slow down your thyroid function. It makes your blood sugar worse. It really pushes us into this state where we store fat and muscle mass starts to break down. We know that sleep starts being fragmented in this time of our life, right? We've got the hot flashes. Maybe we're having alcohol at nighttime, which also is not good for our sleep. And when we're not getting enough sleep, we see that muscle mass starts to go down and fat mass starts to come up. You can be in a calorie deficit and the only thing that you change is sleep. You will see better results from your fat loss just by improving sleep. And we know this is an issue as progesterone starts to go down, right? We see our joints start to ache more when estrogen goes down. Injuries start to linger, right? And so you can't just out-train these habits that we had. Without enough recovery, our workouts that are used to burn fat, right? The HIIT and the cardio and the go, the circuit classes, the Orange Theories, the F45s, all those things, they actually backfire because they increase inflammation and keep you stuck. And so Exercise does increase inflammation short term, but the issue is that most of us are already chronically inflamed. This happens when estrogen goes down, when we're not getting enough sleep, when we're not eating enough, when we're avoiding carbohydrates, when we're fasting, we're running on caffeine and protein bars, when we're go, 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 we're rushing all the time, dealing with deadlines, sick parents, maybe grief, relationship struggles, your kids are frustrating you, right? And we're just go, 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 go all the time. And so the years of the yo-yo dieting and, the constant eat less, move more all of the time ends up making your metabolism less flexible. Your body is not good at using food for fuel. And then we pair it with these hormones that start declining and muscle mass signal starts decreasing. The muscle breakdown signal starts increasing. Yeah, it's going to take a lot more specific, intentional effort to get lean and stay lean, which sucks because most of us are like, I put in my time. I have worked so hard. I have raised kids. I have done the work thing. I have done everything for everyone else. Now you're telling me I have to work harder just to try and stay, a little lean or to avoid to continue gaining weight. That sucks. And yeah, it does. It does. It absolutely does. Right. And so it's understanding that how your body thrived in your 20s, or what we thought was thriving in our 20s, now demands way more balance, way more strategy, smarter decisions, right? You can be lean in your 40s, and this isn't to discourage you. I want you to understand that, hopping from this diet to that diet, or this workout to this workout, or doing random YouTube videos, or doing the F45's Orange Theory circuit bootcamp classes and the fasting and, just trying to eat less all that time isn't the answer. We need something tailored for you in this season of life so that you can achieve your goals and you can maintain it, right? Because usually the cost of chasing like the 20-year-old strategies and physique end up with hormonal chaos, low energy, poor mood, terrible sleep, unsustainable restriction, and your body fat levels will just continue to rise. Many of us are in this position right now. So what it actually takes to maintain those lower body fats, right? So I'm going to break it down to different categories. Below 20% body fat for women over 40. This is like, we're looking at women who are like fitness models, stage, lean, and ready, right? And obviously the deeper that you get, the more extreme. And so the look that you're going to get is probably visible abs, like sharp lines. But often it's going to come at the expense of your health, right? You are typically going to find yourself in a position where your hormones are in the crapper. In order for you to achieve this and like maintain it, you can expect to have pretty strict daily macro tracking. You can expect, working out most days, sometimes multiples, right? That's how people get stage ready is they do their workouts, their 2-a-days, cardio in the morning, working out in the afternoon, right? Less flexibility, right? Like alcohol, not really realistic here. Desserts, probably not going to happen. Spontaneous meals, very hard because we're staying within a very strict parameters for your nutrition, right? You're probably going to have higher cardio levels here too, right? We have to make sure your body can tolerate this. You can't just like jump into this routine and expect to get to a lower percent body fat. If you are someone who's already struggling with your sleep, your energy, your stress, your digestion, you're already eating less and moving more, this is probably going to like over consume your body with inflammation because it's not recovering enough. And you'll probably end up with weight gain, fluid retention, like worse symptoms of energy, cravings, like mood will get so much worse. Goodbye to your libido. It's not going to be a great situation. Like the risks are hormonal suppression. Like we see this in women who have good hormonal levels. This happens to female athletes sometimes. This happens to women in like their 20s, 30s. We see this. Thyroid slows down. We don't want you to give yourself hypothyroidism. Constant fatigue and irritability. Is that the way you want to live your life? Social isolation. Very hard to have a flexible, fun social life when you are on a very, very strict diet, right? And so for most women, honestly, it's not sustainable. Not without serious health trade-offs, but also your joy for life. Like you have to understand people who get this lean probably aren't that healthy. And also like they're probably not doing a ton of stuff, right? These people also have a ton of muscle mass. Like you are lifting heavy. You are doing like heavy resistance training. You are deadlifting. You are pull-ups. You are doing all of those things. So again, that's something you have to be, is that something you want to do? Next category is 20 to 26. And this is lean and livable. This is for me where I typically am. I let my body, like where I am right now, based on my last DEXA scan, I think it was 23% body fat was where I was at. And here, like you have like decently toned arms, right? There's some visible muscle shape. So like when you're working out, like you can see the muscles, right? You can see your quads, like you have glutes, you have biceps, you have shoulders. There might be some definition in the midsection. You're strong, but you're feminine, right? You're not super, super lean. You got a little bit of curve to you, right? What this requires is resistance training, typically 3 to 4 days a week, which is manageable for most people. You're going to have protein in every single meal. We're looking at like 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. I'm typically around like 125, 120, somewhere in there or a little bit higher. And balancing your carbs and fats. There is no extreme elimination. I eat bread most days, potatoes most days, right? Fruit every day except the last 2. Oh no, yesterday I did have raspberries. So, fruit most days, right? Walking and daily movement, like you're getting regular activity in, whether that's steps, whether that's, going for a walk, whatever that might be. There's occasional indulgences, but with overall consistency. So, I still track food, but I have my treats too. Like I have ice cream once or twice a week, maybe. I do have foods that I enjoy. I don't restrict myself. Most days, like food looks pretty balanced, looks pretty good, but I have the option to have dessert if you go out for dinner, right? I can have an appetizer because it's not super extreme. But for me to get to where I am, I had to work on my hormones first. Like I didn't just dive into like going into a calorie deficit or anything like that. Like I've been maintaining for quite some time, right? Like that's where you spend most of your life, is not actively dieting, is maintaining. But again, you need to have muscle mass in order for that body fat percentage to be there. If you lose muscle, body fat percentage will go up. We have multiple women who have been on GLPs and come to us and they're like, I hit my goal weight and I hate the way that I look. And their body fat percentage is actually probably higher, if not the same for sure, from where they started because they lost so much muscle mass. And that's not good because muscle is going to burn lots of calories at rest. It's what keeps us healthy. It's where our mitochondria are. And those mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell, are what take food and turn it into fuel so that we have energy. And also is more, if your body's doing that, it's less likely to store food as fat. And so having that muscle is so key. You need to be resistance training. You need to lift heavy. Like it's a non-negotiable if you are striving for, optimal health and like a certain physique. The nice thing about this like 20 to 26% body fat is that there is actually a lifestyle balance here, right? Like you can enjoy meals out. You could potentially have the occasional glass of wine. Like I don't drink anymore, but you can do that. Like you can go on vacation and like not worry too much. And you can still stay in this range as long as you're keeping your foundations of movement, resistance training, prioritizing your protein. Like there's lots that you can do here. And if you're doing those things and you're not there yet, it's probably because there's something that we need to address first. So your blocked fat burning pathway, you're stuck in that over storage state. And we need to address that first, and then you can lose it and then you can maintain. But so if you're doing these things and you're not getting those results, it tells us that something inside your body signaling is not right. And we need to address that first. The reality of this like 20 to 26% body fat is that it's a sweet spot for most women. It's fit, it's confident, it's sustainable, you're strong, and you're not burning yourself out. Like it's a very good balance. And then we have 26 to 34% body fat. And this is still healthy, still strong, right? You might have a bit of a softer appearance, but you're still energetic. you are still metabolically healthy when paired with that strength training. And we're still having an aspect of a balanced diet here, right? And so it requires moderate effort, like resistance training 2 to 3 days a week. Prioritizing whole foods, but you have flexibility. There is walking and movement most days. And the benefits are is this is typically the place that we need women to be at first to heal, to balance their hormones a lot of the time, right? You're going to have more energy and there's less restriction and better mental health and your sleep is awesome. You're strong, you're functional, you can keep up with your family, you can do the hikes, right? It's sustainable long-term and like you're going to age well. And the reality is that many women thrive here. Like it's realistic. It is a healthy body composition for longevity and quality of life. And every of these ranges, kind of these 3 categories that I outlined here today, like there's a cost of admission, right? The lower you go, the higher the sacrifice, the higher the cost, especially once we're in our 40s and beyond because of where our hormones are at. And so the real question is what lifestyle are you willing to live, not just for, 8 weeks, but the next 8 years? Like, what do you want to be doing at 80? What do you want to be doing with your family? How do you want to eat? What do you want that to look like, right? And so we kind of got to think about it like almost like a bank account balance. I love this analogy. So every body fat percentage has a cost of living. So below 20%, it's a little like trying to live with $500 in a checking account. You can't really go out that much. You can't buy a ton of extras, and like one unexpected bill can like completely wipe you out, right? This 20 to 26% is like maintaining a solid 5,000 buffer. Like you have a budget, but you've got flexibility for like the vacation here, the dinner out here, right? And like an unexpected thing isn't going to like totally shatter you. And then 26 to like 34%, like you've got a steady like 10,000 savings, plenty of cushion, less stress, more freedom. And so you have to ask yourself really like, do you want to live paycheck to paycheck with your body? Or would you have this comfortable balance that like allows you to enjoy life, right? And the big thing here for all healthy body fat percentages is ample amount of muscle. The more muscle you have, the healthier you will be, the lower your risk of mortality, the lower your risk of various different conditions, the shorter hospital stays, fewer surgical complications, better hormonal health, fewer risks of fractures. Like if you fracture your hip, it takes 7 years off your life on average. That's insane. And so many women, we're seeing more and more osteoporotic breaks because people are using different tools. They are, not resistance training enough. We're not doing any of the things that help maintain muscle mass and help maintain bone health. And we're withering away. We might be lighter, but our body fat percentage isn't super great, but also we're missing muscle mass, which is so, so key. And many of you, like we've done this with our clients before where they sent us like a picture of their ideal physique. And it's like, okay, this picture, you're probably going to weigh at least 10 pounds heavier. And like, we need to add substantial amounts of muscle, but we're also stuck on the scale when really we need to be looking at the body fat percentage and how much muscle you have. Like that's what's really important. And so for most women over 40, a healthy, fit, and sustainable body fat is going to live somewhere between 20 to 30-ish, right? And that's where you'll have energy. That's where you'll protect your hormones. You'll build muscle. You'll still feel confident in your clothes. You'll feel strong. You're going to sleep through the night. Could you get leaner? Sure, I could get leaner, but I'm not willing to pay the cost of that. I do not want to be in the gym every single day, let alone twice a day. I don't want to not have the flexibility to have a spontaneous dinner out. I don't want to see my hormones go in the crapper because I worked very, very hard to improve them. Very hard for many years. It took time, right? I have worked too hard for health to sacrifice it just to have visible abs again. I honestly am fine if I never have that 6-pack definition again. It's not worth the years of hormonal hell I put myself through after that. Absolutely not. But that's just me, right? So instead of asking yourself how low can I go? How restrictive can I get? Ask yourself, what's the level I can maintain for the rest of my life while living this life that I actually want? Because your body fat percentage, let's be honest, is just another number, right? Your vitality, your strength, your confidence, your health, that's what actually matters, right? And I tell this story over and over again when I lost my mom, right? When I look back, I could not give you any idea what her body fat percentage was. I cannot give you any idea how much she weighed, what her clothing size was, the inches around her waist, because to me that didn't matter. What mattered to me is that she kept me safe and that I could tell her anything. She was my best friend. I remember her smile. I remember her laugh. You know, the way that I would come over and there'd be brownies ready. Cool. I want to be able to have that with her, right? And so I wish that she would have focused on the right things to improve her health so that she could have been here longer to meet my husband, to meet my kid, to walk me down the aisle, all those things, right? And so understand that even if you don't get to this body fat percentage that you're looking for, your health and being able to show up for your family, for your friends, for yourself, for your purpose is so much more important whether you get to, 17% versus 20, right? That doesn't dictate your value at all in any way, shape, or form. And so just a reminder, you are not broken. You don't need to starve yourself. You do not need to punish yourself or shame your body into submission. You need to understand what's realistic, align your habits with your hormones, and choose the version of you that feels powerful and not deprived. And if you have no idea where to start because you feel like you're doing a lot of the stuff that I talked about, like all the things that we talked about that it takes to maintain here, and it isn't working, we need to look internally and see what's happening, what's blocking your fat burning pathway, what's pushing you into that storage state, what's telling your body we have enough, let's store, despite the fact that you're eating less and moving more and doing everything right. That's partially what we're doing here in this 8-week program, is identifying that for you so we can get things moving. And so again, we only have a few spots there. Hopefully there's still some left by the time this podcast airs. I love you so, so much. And if you ever have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.